Hi, Rob. I hope you are well. I've been enjoying your show as always. I just wanted to throw in my own observations regarding Alien Earth now that it has blissfully ended. Like so many other Alien fans, like so many other Alien fans, I was so looking forward to this show. The pedigree attached to it, along with the budget, suggested it could be an amazing experience. The teasers look good. The premise was very intriguing. All signs pointed to something that could be potentially great. Oh my word, was I wrong. Now, episodes 1 and 2 released together had real potential. I let some of the more stupid moments wash over me to start with. After all, we got to get the setup going. We need characters to get where they need to be for the story to unfold. Then came the flashback episode on the Maginot. I think I watched that episode with my lower jaw on my chest, truly marveling at how stupid the characters were and brain dead the decisions they were making. And subsequent episodes, it just got worse. Like a fool, I kept watching. As I said before, the premise was intriguing. The idea is intriguing. Hope kept me going. Hope it would get better. Hope that it was at least going somewhere. But no. Like with all recent Alien media, the xenomorph itself had become a side character in its own franchise, and we were now falling back on a trope introduced by the man who introduced us to the alien in the first place, Ridley Scott. He has decided somehow to become the guardian of this franchise since Prometheus, steering it forward to places that have, in my opinion, ruined the mythos. It has become a franchise about what it means to be human, about genetics and replicants, about creations turning on their creators, hybrids, newborns. Interesting, for sure, but as Nerdrotic has pointed out, more like a Blade Runner show than an Alien one, surely. Maybe he has shoehorned these elements into Alien simply because it is more commercially viable? Who knows? But now, when I see his name attached to anything Alien, a cold shiver runs down my spine. Imagine that. One of the greatest directors ever, and I cringe when he gets his mitts on Alien. And then we come to Noah Hawley. He seems to have been worshiping at the altar of Ridley, as all of his ideas seem to have come directly from him. Between Prometheus, Covenant, and Romulus, the formula for Alien Earth was all there, mixed in, now given the room to breathe and grow. I started to think around episode 5 that perhaps Hawley was trolling us. That this whole show and the foolish characters in it was his commentary on what the future was going to look like based on what's happening in the world of today. The selfish, introverted, arrogant, no common sense, technologically dependent generations that we're producing. But I saw no evidence in the show to tell me if this was the case. No dialogue, no wink at the camera, not even any interviews with Hawley himself saying this was so. As a result, I can only assume everything in this show was on purpose. I shuddered at the last episode, the cliffhanger promising yet more time in the company of these relentless idiots. As far as I was concerned, it promised only another nail in the coffin of this Alien franchise. I'm interested in your thoughts. All the best, Damo or Damo. A good letter. Now, before I have to say I'm a huge Noah Hawley fan. You know, I really like what he did with Legion. I never expected to see an X-Men show like that on TV. And obviously what he did with Fargo was pretty excellent. But I have to agree with you. Alien's one of my favorite movies. I would dare say that Alien is a perfect film. And one of the things that I love, there are two things that I think really set Alien apart. And one I'm going to say is the verisimilitude of it all. Nobody had ever seen a movie like that. Again, in the wake of Star Wars, it came out 2 years after Star Wars, 1979, from the same studio, 20th Century Fox. And what it presented to us was a whole lived-in future world where we believe there are giant... We don't even know what the Nostromo is a commercial towing vehicle. It's towing basically these giant cathedrals in space. So it was immediately evocative of the churches that were now in the universe, in the heavens themselves, being pulled by this really cool ship that was actually supposed to be a tugboat, essentially. And then you had a group of these blue-collar workers. You know, Alien was called, like in France, the title was The Eighth Passenger. It wasn't Alien, it was The Eighth Passenger. But so you have these blue-collar people. Very relatable. We understand who these people are right away. They're concerned about the bonus situation. But the one thing about these characters was they were smart. You know, Brett and Parker, they knew how to fix that goddamn ship. Now, Dallas was a good captain. Sigourney Weaver, very capable. All of these characters knew their jobs. They were workaday people. What they didn't know anything about was, what do you do when you encounter an extraterrestrial, well, at the time, never encountered before? They go through the protocols. They do everything they're told. They have to go down. They rescue the ship. They find a gigantic alien derelict, the likes of which they've never seen. They don't freak out. They're like, well, you know, they do what any people do like that. They're like, I got to get the job done. We got to go find where the signal's coming from. Maybe there's somebody to rescue. But they're not even like, this is an amazing alien craft. I mean, Ash thinks it's amazing, but for the most part, these people have a job to do. It's work a day. We got to go find the signal. Is there somebody to rescue? Can we get the fuck out? Anyway, the thing about Alien is you had these blue-collar workers that were ill-equipped to deal with this alien xenomorph. We all know the story, but what made Alien so interesting is not only is it how realistic it was, but these characters, once the shit hit the fan, and once Kane had this chest burster explode from him, even coming in, Sigourney Weaver's like, why did you break protocol? Why didn't you listen to what I said? Because we don't know that Ash is a robot yet. But everybody in Alien, to the best of their abilities, is smart. They don't have any weapons, but they're able. Parker is able to fabricate cattle prods and motion sensors and flamethrowers. They do as well as they can with what's at hand. They didn't expect to have. There's no weapons on that ship. They certainly didn't expect to find some armored xenomorph like they find it. But what's great about that movie is they have no idea what they're up against, and neither do we. But they do their best. They're just outgunned, and nothing's going to save them. There's nothing they can do. So when you're watching Alien, you're watching these people make the best of a situation. They're as smart as they can be. They do as much as they can, but they have no idea what they're facing. And what they're facing is the existential dread of the cosmic infinitude of what we'll never know. That was what's made Alien so wonderful, is that we're never going to know where this alien derelict spacecraft came from. We're never going to know who the space jockey was. We're never going to know why the space jockey had his chest burster inside of it. Who put those thousands of eggs in there? Lined up perfectly. It's not like somebody dumped them in. They're put in there beautifully, and that ship is huge. Like when you see him descending down, and you know, it's huge. And you see, like, clearly those alien eggs were going for some whether it's nefarious or not, you have to think it's nefarious. We'll never know. And that was part of it. We'll never know where this stuff was going. And in Aliens is more of a war movie. Still, you now have an alien queen, but that even brings up more questions. How did you get those aliens in that alien derelict back in the last movie? It didn't change things. And even Alien 3, if you watch the assembly cut of Alien 3, the way that the xenomorph clashes with these men and their religious beliefs and all that, there's something interesting about it, especially if you watch. It's not perfect, but it's oppressive. And then you get to the goofiness of Alien Resurrection. But then you start answering questions. And what was interesting is Ridley Scott was combining Blade Runner and Alien together. And one of the great tropes of science fiction is artificial people. How can we extend life? This is some of the oldest science fiction material that's ever been dealt with. All the way back in film, Fritz Lang, 1927, Metropolis, Maria, all of that. We've been dealing with this. Star Trek, Roger Corby creating android bodies so humans can live forever. This is something that Star Trek and many other science fiction franchises have dealt with. Can we live forever by putting human consciousness into android bodies? The problem with all of this is that especially now in Alien Earth, all of these things were done in a very haphazard, unsatisfying way that felt to me as if nobody had ever come across these stories, as if no one had ever watched Ghost in the Shell. No one had ever watched many different Japanese animated films about, or better yet, Pluto. If you haven't watched Pluto on Netflix, please go watch Pluto. It's one of the greatest things I've seen in it's Japanese anime, but go watch it because it's incredible. It's a hard science fiction story about robotics and artificial life or AI, but it's really, really good. But when you're watching this, there's all of these goofy things going on. Like, for instance, if you take kids' consciousness, and you put it inside a machine, I mean, okay, the machine is designed to be like an adult body. But that doesn't mean that a kid is going to feel any different. It's not like you're putting kids... See, the thought process is, I think they thought that, and this is so weird to me, that a machine's a machine. It doesn't matter how you design a machine. But if you take a kid's presence and put it into a machine, it doesn't matter if the machine's an adult machine, what it looks like. It's what it feels like to be in it. And they're controlling whatever the kids are supposed to feel. But what they did was they made these kids suddenly, they're like autistic or developmentally disabled or on the spectrum. Kids aren't stupid. They were all dealing with mortality. And what it would have been really interesting to lean more into is that these kids were all suffering from terminal diseases. And then suddenly they were out of their bodies. They didn't have aches and pains anymore. And what does that mean? How did that change their perspective? And they had all of these interesting things that they could have done that they didn't do for the sake of the plot. And the thing that I really couldn't stand is if you're Boy Cavalier and you have all of this money and you're the head of one of the biggest corporations on Earth, and you know that you're going to get these alien creatures, why do you not have a biolab that has the best scientists in the world? Presumably you could get them. And why isn't your lab monitored 24/7? Every single moment that these extraterrestrial life forms are not monitored, not studied, is a waste. What, you're only going to have people work from 9 to 5 on these creatures? You should have 24-hour-a-day people and the best in the world. They should never be left unattended. There should be all kinds of bright lights. I mean, I'm looking at this going, how is this smart guy acting so stupid around these extraterrestrials? It was maddening. I mean, let's go a little bit more Andromeda strain. I'm with you. There was all these really interesting ideas, but the characters were so dumb, and you're asking me to believe in if these kids know, if you know that there's alien life that you've never seen ever before, they certainly, they took it in a very cavalier manner, and I just didn't believe it. And and they just needed that for convenience to let these creatures escape. It was so, they just leave these aliens unattended to do what they do. Because who knows if they're not being, I mean, okay, you're watching them on a view screen. Why wasn't there somebody? And by the way, why wasn't the entire place manned by synthetics? Why are there human beings there at all? Why are there human beings on that island at all? I don't know. I mean, to advance the plot, why are there, if there's synthetics everywhere, why are there, I mean, I understand on the Maginot they were gone for 65 years. But if you have synthetics like Kirsch, why isn't your entire facility manned by synthetics? Especially to look over alien creatures. I mean, they don't know what the life cycle is of a xenomorph, but why would you ever have meat that could be affected by alien creatures? If you're dealing with any kind of extraterrestrials at all, and you have synths like they have in Alien Earth, why would anybody put human beings anywhere near these creatures? I mean, these ideas are dumb. I mean, you don't put extraterrestrials in the same facility that your billion-dollar synths are in. What do they have to do with each other? Nothing.